The Call to the Underground. Hello, everyone. My name is Tessa, and I'm here to introduce you to your host, Reagan Rodriguez. Reagan is a futurist who teaches stratosphere wealthy legacy families how to become impact investors. Hi, Reagan. How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve. How about yourself?
Like, I'm the same, better than I deserve as
Yeah.
well.
So I'll go ahead and get kind of started here for
Yeah,
us.
perfect.
Most people delay their destiny. They keep waiting for the perfect moment, that right mentor, the right amount of money, the right alignment of stars. But perfection never comes. They say things like, I'm not ready yet, or I'll start when I have more time, or I'm not sure I'll do it right. And see, that's exactly why they then stay stuck. Inside the Fifth Avenue Underground Club, we see this every day. We see brilliant minds that then they're trapped by this hesitation, maybe high performers that have built walls of logic around their own fear. They say they want freedom, but deep down, they're terrified of of being seen. So here's the truth. You do not need perfect. You need movement. When I founded this club, I didn't build it for the flawless. I built it for those who are brave enough to take that first step, even while trembling. I tell my private members, write your first business plan badly. Just begin, because every empire, it all starts as a sketch. Every great founder, investor, deal maker, they begin with a mess. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to be in motion, because once you start, then something extraordinary happens. I've noticed this. You then gain what no one can teach, and that's the momentum. And that momentum is then going to change everything for you. See, the people that seem to thrive inside the underground club are those that are willing to look foolish for maybe just a moment, right? Because they're being a beginner, a rookie. You might come across like you're making a fool of yourself. No, a fool is a precursor to the king. Every king stumbles through that kind of foolishness. I just thought of something kind of witty here. Before the throne, there's always the tumble. I just thought of something else, kind of poetic here. The fool is not the opposite of the king. He is the seed. Every king was once a man who was willing to look ridiculous before he became unstoppable. Okay, let me move on. The trickster becomes the transformer. The one who dares to stumble becomes the one who learns how to rise. That's the secret. When you're humble enough to begin, then the world reveals its hidden architecture. You start seeing patterns, deals align, resources appear. People who ignored you all of a sudden lean in, but you have to move. Maybe the vision you're chasing isn't perfectly clear. Maybe that star you're following isn't the right one, but at least it's up in the sky and at least it's pulling you forward. And when something grips your soul, when you feel that whisper saying, you were made for more, the answer is not to hesitate. The answer is to say yes, to then move towards it, to risk that embarrassment of now awakening. Because even if it's a mistake, it's a redemptive one. Inside the underground club, we call it a profitable failure, because every misstep is going to teach you how to play the game at a higher level. You're going to stumble. You're going to be torn apart, but reborn in the fire of your own becoming. Each time you'll rise, you'll be more refined, and you'll be even more dangerous, more aware. That is the price of ascension. And the reward is going to be power, clarity, and then legacy. See, every member of the Fifth Avenue Underground Club reaches a point where they then stop chasing perfection. And instead, they're going to pursue truth. They stop asking, what if I fail? And they start asking, what if I never take that first step? Because here's the harsh truth. Stasis is decay. If you're not advancing, then you're just regressing. The world moves fast, and if you stand still, it drags you backwards. That's why our creed is simple. Never stay in one place. The underground moves. It evolves. It adapts. Every pivot, every failure, every dark night of the soul is your training ground. Within each cycle, the pain lessens. The insight is going to sharpen. The fire that's within you is going to remember how to rise. Or rather, the spirit within you remembers how to rise. Eventually, you're going to then realize the game was never about perfection. It was about becoming. You illuminate yourself through motion. You form your own potential through collision of reality. That's what the club is. It is a living system of transformation, a secret society of those who dare to move, who refuse to die, who understand that freedom is not found, it is forged. You're not here by accident. You were drawn here because something that's inside of you recognizes this language, that code of ambition, the whisper of destiny, the memory of what you could be if you just stopped waiting. Here is the invitation. Take the step. Write your first business plan draft, even if it's ugly or incomplete. Because once you're inside, we will refine it together. That is what we do here. We turn hesitation into strategy, fear into leverage, and potential into power. The Fifth Avenue Underground Club is not for everyone. It's for the few who are ready to rise. The question is simple. Will you keep standing still, or will you move towards your star? Oh, before we have you close us out of here, Tessa, I wanted to just add, you understand that the way of the archetypes, when I say you want to be a fool, I don't mean to make foolish decisions. I mean, don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we learn. Also, when I talked about trickster, that I would not mean to be deceiving. I mean trickster that sometimes we got to trick our own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I the other day, I was just walking down the street and I don't know why, I wasn't feeling so great about myself. And I just kind of saw myself in the reflection of these window of this retail kind of store. And I noticed my shoulders were like this. And I thought, oh, so I walked like this and I was tricking myself to feel better. Oh, and I just thought of something. What if somebody would have saw that and would have laughed and say, look at this guy. What is he sticking his chest out? I don't care if I make a fool of myself by doing that. It's about myself and feeling better about myself. The other thing about the trickster, I know that in your industry of like ClickFunnels, they use that language of, what's it called? imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like you're imposter? No, you talk to yourself. So when we say trickster, it's a different language. It came from, there was Freud, and then Carl Jung had this, they went separate ways. And then Carl Jung had someone else, look him up. I think the name was Jenkins, Jengi, and he's the one that then formed things called archetypes. So look this up yourself. Look up archetypes, magician, and then look up archetypes, trickery. It's not what you think, but it's almost something symbolic that you've gone from kind of tricking yourself to then moving into that magician. So here's a good example of like a trickery using magician and kind of humor. Let's assume you sold, I'm just giving this example, let's assume you sold ties at a men's clothing store. And a guy walks in and you say, "Can I help you?" Well, what does the typical guy say when you ask him that?
I'm just looking.
That just rolls out of my mouth. No, I'm just looking. The truth is, come on. You know this. I get your husband, Brian. He's not a shopper. I get when he goes somewhere, he knows exactly what he wants, right?
Yes.
Same thing with me. It just rolls off of our tongue, but it's not true that we're just looking. So an example, if you were a salesperson at a men's clothing store, instead of saying, "Can I help you find anything?" Because they're going to say, "No, I'm just looking." As soon as they walk in, you'd say, "Did you get those shoes here?"
Oh.
You see, it was kind of like a pattern interrupt. So that's why I use the word, or the psychology word, of magician. You're kind of doing a little trickster because you're being creative to change their pattern. So I wanted to just explain. I use those terms. So in terms of personality types, the disc, the dominant eye is the influencer. Well, the eye would be more the magician. They've got that sanguine personality. They maybe use a little bit of humor. I got to tell you who's been really good, that is his actual personality type. And he's, whether you like the guy politically or not, is the President Zelensky. Perfect example. He was a comedian that's using the magician, but he had to trick his own mind and act like he was president before. And he's almost a little bit of a maverick, which is part of the magician. The trickster is also mischievous. And they're going to do things that are a little outside of the norm. They're okay with being foolish. And then look at how it's transformed into this magician, that we've turned comedy into courage. Enough on that. I think I've talked enough on that. Anything you want to add on archetypes, or anything I went over that made you think of something?
No, I looked up the archetype, so I will put on the screen the archetype, the name, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but I will put it on the screen for you so you can see. But that is very interesting. There's lots of archetypes that it's fascinating to see what's behind the scenes, what goes through your head on the archetypes and how you handle situations. I also wanted to say that perfection is the enemy of progress, which was Winston Churchill, I believe, that said that, and that made me think of you when you were mentioning this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything in order to come and be part of the underground club too. You do need an invitation, but you don't have to be in that perfect place or ready. It's about knowing that you're ready to take that step.
You gave me just another good example that could be helpful for others. I mentioned that I have a friend that she's not part of the underground club. She does this herself, and I've met her at other seminars and continuing education seminars. And she goes after gyms. That's her niche. and even some salons, spas. So she will go door to door and just open up and say, "Hey, is the owner in?" That's a perfect example. She's willing to make a fool of herself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's not foolish in the words she uses and the approach. So I just gave an example. I just thought of an example that she could use. Assume she walks in. Is the owner in? Person behind the counter says, "Did you see the sign? It said there's no soliciting." So here's a good magician trickery. I thought it said no smoking. No, it said no soliciting. I know. I can read, but I bet there's no smoking allowed in here too, right? I mean, this is a gym. Am I allowed to smoke? See what you just did? You just changed it around. So that could be an example. And I just thought of that. Was that the best? It was just a quick example. So I'm glad that you brought up Google archetypes. Look at what the different ones are. I even notes on something that I was going to say. I was trying to think of the guy's name. I believe it is J. I don't have it written
Yeah,
down.
it's Junbian. So we'll put it
That's the one. Yes.
I don't know how you can pronounce it, but I apologize.
You know, since he was mentored by Carl Jung, I was going to say maybe it's pronounced with a Y, and then maybe the G is silent. I'm not sure, but he was a kind of like a maverick, right? That said, let's move some things here. Let's do things like trick your own mind, right? Not trick others, trick yourself into believing it. So that term that people look at as a negative, fake it till you make it, act as if. It can be negative if you're saying, "I'm going to deceive people." This is about yourself and your own mindset. And when you say, "I'm not ready to open up a business yet," well, President Zelensky was a comedian, no offense. He also wasn't ready. Okay? So it's kind of tricking yourself. Enough said on that. I think we got it.
Yes, we did. And if you would like more information about the Underground Club, you can go to the Fifth Avenue website, 5THAAVC.com, and request an invitation. Just hit a contact us form to find out more. And then if you love this content, you want to hear more from Reagan, you can hit the bell to get notifications when we go live. So thank you.